अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So in the previous class we saw the nyasa. The nyasam, as I mentioned in the previous class, is a process of cleansing oneself or making oneself ready for worshipping the Lord. So one has to be mentally ready, physically ready for the person to offer the worship to the Lord. So nyasa can vary from stotram to stotram. In the Lagunyasam also there is nyasa in Rudram. Then there is Mahanyasa, which is also in Rudram, which is a longer version of the Lagunyasam. Then also in the Lalita Sahasranam also there is nyasa. So all of the most texts, they have nyasam already there. So here also we have this nyasa which is required before we start chanting the Sahasranama Japa. So Sri Mahavishnu Prityarthe. So for the earning the Priti or earning the pleasantries of the Mahavishnu, Prityarthe Sahasranama Jape. So now we are into the chanting the Sahasranama, thousand names of Lord. Viniyogaha. So Viniyoga means that is the. So now I'm going to start, or the process starts. Now after the nyasa there is a dhyanam also. So here also dhyanam also is the contemplation of the Lord, and dhyanam here also represents the Saguna Brahma Ishvara. So Saguna Brahma or Saguna Ishvara means the one which is with gunas or with attributes. So in Vedanta we have two types of worship. One worship is where you worship the Lord with Saguna. That means you personify or you identify the Bhagavan with all attributes. That is, he has got the limbs, he has got the arms, eyes, Kritam, Gada, Shankaha, all those things. That is the first step. So the first step always will have to be from the aspect of the Saguna Brahma. That's why it says Saguna. So along with the guna is called Saguna. Then from Saguna, one has to slowly get over to Nirguna. So in Nirgunam, there is no specific identification of any attributes of the Lord. So that is the most difficult part of every sadhaka. So every sadhaka wants to get to that state of where one need not idolize or one need not have any particular image or photograph or anything for them to worship. See, our festivals which are there, the recently Ganesh Chaturthi or Krishna Jayanti, all of them we are going to, from August you will see all the festivals. They are there for offering our prayers. And it is also recommended for one to do for getting the mind ready. So for the person who is already well read and well established in the jnanam, this activity may or may not be required or may not be done in the same in the manner in which it is done. So some people have that if I don't do this, I will get affected by it, or I will feel very bad about it, or it will be bad beaten up. because the person identifies himself with the image. And all of this puja is always done with the image in the front. That means I am the person who is performing puja and he is the Bhagavan to whom I am offering the prayers. So there's always these two people involved in this. So whenever there are two people involved in this, two will always be two. Two will never become one. So how will two become one? Only when the second person knows what the first person is. So that is where the difficulty comes. It takes a long time. It can even take 20 years. Some people will not even be able to make it at all. So one may say, because there's no time frame. A person can get it even 6 months. A person cannot get it even 60 years also. So a person remains to be committed to this particular method of worship because the person cannot visualize or cannot think of a life outside of the prayer. So as long as karma is there, punyam will be there, papam will be there. So the day you think that the karma is over for me, that day there will be no punyam and papam, because karma always will bring you punyam or papam. Any activity you do, it will be either positive or negative. And the result also will be you can ask a question.
Two questions I want to ask. One is that Nirguna, where the cost of the Muslims, they don't have any God. So they are following Nirguna. They have no God. No God. Another question is,
it is also worship. It is also offering your gratitude, your same thing. Archana also is another type of worship. It's one of the Navada Bhaktis. Archana also is one of the 9 types of Bhaktis in Bhagavatam. Archana, Pujanam, Padasevanam, all of them are Nrityam, Goshyam, all of them are different as Bhakti people do. Some people do dance, some people do music, some people do Archana, some people they chant, they do rituals. All of them are different types of worship. And in any of them which you do, there's always a person who's doing the Archana and a person who's the receiver of the benefit of Archana. So when you go to the temple, you buy $10 worth of plate, you will give in Tenga Modi, you will give in some apple, and Bhagavan will take, and half will come to you. So it's always you can't say that you take everything. They'll always give something back to you. So that's a concept, it's a symbol. So the key message is that as long as there is 2 people involved, there is 3 activities performed. Number 1 is the person who is actually being the doer. That is you, the person who is offering the prayers. Second thing is there is an act of praying, act of worship. So there's a physical act or a manasikam or a kayikam, vachikam, manasam. So 3 types of acts are performed in anything. Physical activity possible, mental activity possible, or vachikam, oral also possible. And the activity which is performed is by the person. There is a process which is being followed, procedure, and the procedure is applied on another person who is actually outside of it. Correct? So in all of these things, you will have these 3 continuously be there. You will be the person, you will have to know the mantra, you will have to know the process, the method, and if you don't know the method, you will have to go to some teacher who will teach you the method, you will have to perfect it, and there's really no thing called perfection because everybody thinks they are perfect. So one knows according to what they think is correct. And because it is given from person to person, the information may not be 100% correct as in the Shastra. That is why the karma is always ridden with defects. And if you do not do the karma as exactly given in the Shastra, in the exact order, in the same commitment, it will not give you benefit. That is why karma is actually very dangerous. Not dangerous means it is not 100% safe method because we are only doing what we are told to do. Whereas jnanam is different because in jnanam there is no karma required. That's why karma yoga is prescribed for a person who is not ready for jnanam. That's why Bhagavad Gita and Krishna says that you be a karma yogi so that you develop the right qualities and you be eligible for performing the puja or offering the benefit to the Lord. Thereby, one day you will be blessed with the jnanam to know that all these three are not different from each other, they are only one. That means the person to whom the prayer is addressed is also Bhagavan. The person who is offering the prayer also is Bhagavan. So, because you are not different from the Bhagavan, the prayer is not different from the Bhagavan, the activity of praying is also not different from the Bhagavan. So, there is no thing called three different things. So, that is what is mentioned in the Nyasam, or when a Nyasam is there, really one has to focus on that. But because the Sahasranama is a Saguna Brahma Upasanam, it is always seen in the process. So we also teach you from that process only initially. Later on, when you study Vedanta, or people are studying Shastra with me for many years, they will know that these are all only a method or a process for one to get the Antakarana Shuddhi or the mental purity required to pursue further studies. So here also we have a Dhyanam Slokam here. So Dhyanam also here. Kshiro Dhanvat Pradeshe Shuchi Mani Vilasat Saikate Mautikanam. So the first one is Shiraha. First it's called Shira. What is Shiram? Because it's a big dhyanam, I'm going to break it so that you understand. So Kshira means water or the ocean. So Kshiram is called ocean. And Dhanvat here means the milky ocean. So in the Samudra Manthanam, when the Asuras and Devas are churning the ocean with Vasuki as the serpent, the ocean, the milky ocean is talked about here. Right? So it's called Parkadal in Tamil. So if you look at the old, I don't know if you know Thiruvalluvar, So one day Thiruvalluvar was actually having eating food, and Vasuki, the wife, always listens to the husband. So when he asks for milk, the wife brings the milk, and then he sees some an ant floating there. So immediately, because he's a poet, he says, Parkadalil Srinivasan Palli Kondithikiran. That means what? She didn't understand what he's talking about. He just looked at it, he says, oh, this is how it is. So, see the beauty of the text. See, Pal Endrum Kadalil. I don't Tamil understand, right? People. So, see, Park Kadalil means what? Pal Endrum Kadalil. Srinilirkum Vasan, Srinivasa. So, Palli Kondithikiran means the person who is residing in the milk is Srinivasa. Even though the Srinivasa residing there is the ant. See that? The ant has fallen into the milk due to the sweetness of the milk. Right. So same way here also. So I think Tamil, I'm getting into this. Next week we have a Tamil class, so you will see more of this. So Shiro Dhanvat. So Dhanvat here means the milky. Okay. And Pradeshe means place. So Shiro Dhanvat Pradeshe means the milky ocean place. And how is it? Shuchi Mani. So Shuchi Mani here means adorned with white pearls. Shuchi Mani. And Vilasat Mautikana. See, Vilasat Sakte Mautikana. Sakte means adorned. So the one who is adorned with white pearls. The one who is shining in the milky ocean. So the dhyanam should be like this. Okay, so Shiro Dhanvat Pradeshe. So in the place where there is milky ocean being churned, in that place there is Vishnu, who is adorned with Shuchi Mani. So Shuchi Mani is, Mani means the pearls, and Shuchi Mani is clear pearls and which is clean. And Shuchi Mani here also talks about the white pearls. So Shuchi Mani Vilasat Muktikanam. So Muktikanam, when you say here, is Mukti Pradatha. Mukti Pradatha is called Muktikanam. The one who is the giver of Mukti is called Muktika. So here Muktikanam, when you say here, it means the person who is supposed to be the giver of Mukti. So Shuchi Mani means crystal clear. Crystal clear money. Correct. And the one who is bedecked or decked in crystal clear pearls is called Shuchi Mani. Vilasat Muktikana. The one who is supposed to be the bestower of Mukti is called Muktikana here. So Shiro Dhanvat Pradeshe Shuchi Mani Vilasat Sakte Muktikana. So Sakte means the endower or the giver. Or Sakte means the person who is eligible, who can give you this. He is the Vishnu here, worshipped there. Right. Then Mala Klipta Sanasta. So Mala Klipta Sanasta. Spatika Mani. So Mala here means garland. Right? Mala means garland, and for the Bhagavan, the garland is the whole Jagat. For this Vishnu, the entire cosmos is a Mala. In the Bhagavad Gita, you will say, he says that you are never separate from me. Just as the bead and the thread can never be non-separate. There cannot be something called a Mala or a garland without the thread being there. The thread cannot exist without the bead being there. See, when you say the Mala, it has got two things. It has got the beads, and the bead has to be strung on a thread. And this Vajayanti Mala is supposed to be the Mala for the Bhagavan, for Vishnu. Vajayanti Mala. So Vajayanti, so the Bhagavan always wears Mala on his garland. So he says that there is a question of you separating from me, because if the Mala is not there, then your Rasguda is not existing, so you are always present. So there is a question of you being separate. Then he says, Sutre Manigana Iva. So in the Bhagavad Gita he says, Sutre Manigana Iva. Sutra means the thread. And Manigana Iva means just as the beads which are there is non-separate from the thread. The beads do not have existence outside of the thread, correct? So you cannot call a Mala unless there is a thread and the beads. So two are required. And the two are always together. Can you have bead separately and say that, bead is here and the thread is here and I call Mala? You cannot. So here also the worship is like this, that you cannot have yourself as the Upasaka and then Bhagavan as the person there, and you say that you two are different. Because just as the Mala is same as the two are twined together. And when one of them breaks, the beads also scatter. So what is the point of having a thread and there's no Mala there? So both are important. That's why it says here also Spatika Mani. So I remember this Bhagavad Gita quote. That's why I gave. So Spatika Mani here is crystal clear, which is hanging around the Bhagavan's neck. Right? And Muktikana, Mala Klipta. So Klipta means the one who is adorned, who is settled in this one. Adorned. Mala Klipta. Asanasta. See, Mala Kliptam Asanasta. So when you chant the mantra, you'll say Mala Klipta Asanasta. You chant like this, correct? But it is actually called Mala Klipta, means the one who is adorned with the garland. And the one who is adorned with the garland made of what? Shuchi Mani of crystal clear, correct? And that garland is supposed to be the one who is supposed to give you mukti. The holder of the garland is the person for mukti. So, and how we see mala klipta asanasta. Asanasta means sitting. He is sitting. Asanasta. So Spatikam Mani, when you say Spatikam, I don't know, you should know Spatikam, right? You know Spatikam crystal. So if you keep the crystal in front of a red light, the red light will pass through the crystal and it will illuminate the other side of the crystal. The crystal does not itself become red. The crystal is only a transmitter, or the crystal actually doesn't get affected by any color. If you have a blue color passing through the crystal, it will give you blue color. So the Shuchi Mani also definition is that Shuchi means Shaucham, clean. So crystal. And this money is supposed to be not tainted, cannot be polluted by anything which is affected by it. Then asanastha. Spatika manir. So the Spatika Mani is the beads he talks about here. Then I'm trying to see how to break this word for you. See, Shubhray Rabhrai. So Shubhray Rabhrai, Ruparivair, Viruchatair. Correct. So that one is the whole word. Shubhray Rabhrai, the whole word is actually called clouds. A canopy of clouds. It's called canopy of white clouds. White clouds. So the whole particular word is called
Shankarji. And second, Mauti Kair Manditanga.
Mauktikanam. Manditanga means sitting. Mandita means sitting. Mauktikanam, that's why it says Mala Kripta Asanasta Spatika Manir. So the whole word, see the Subhray Rabhrair, all of the entire word here, up to Piyusha Varshaihi. Okay. So that talks about the white canopy of white clouds and also the rain-bearing clouds or the water-laden clouds. See, Piyusha Varshai, in the one which is capable of showering rain. So here the showering rain is not actually supposed to be physical rain. The one who is capable of giving you blessings is called showering rain. So he is supposed to be a reservoir of rain-bearing cloud. So what is rain-bearing cloud here? The rain-bearing cloud is supposed to be the bestower of Ananda or bestower of good wishes. So when you do Dhyanam, you worship the Bhagavan in this manner, saying that this Bhagavan is of the nature of abundance of giving. Even though the literal meaning is actually saying canopy of white clouds, having rain-bearing clouds or the reservoir of water. So when the rain comes, every living being in this universe is happy. Can there be a single person who says, I don't like rain? Everybody likes rain. Even the plants, the animals, everything is depending on the rains. Because without the rain, this land will become completely barren. Same thing, without the blessing of the Bhagavan, without the best wishes of Bhagavan, we will not be able to progress anywhere at all. So the Bhagavan's grace is always sought here. Okay. Then, so Mukta Piyusha Varsha means those bring the clouds or they bring the rain. So Mukta Piyusha Varshaihi. If you look at that one, this fourth, Mukta Piyusha Varshai. So Mukta Piyusha means what? The one which is giving you Mukti, Mukta. So Mukta means the person who is supposed to be the bestower of Mukti. And how is he? He will give you abundance. Piyusha Varshai. He has got so much of capacity that only one person can't get Mukti. Everybody can get Mukti. So all of us can pray and say that I want to be free from all these samsaric problems. He is a person who can bestow at the same time benefit everybody without any prejudice, without any favoritism. Correct. So only a person who has got abundance of wealth only can give. See, if you ask a beggar, he will not give you. If you ask a wealthy person also, he will give you only when his wealth is limited. But if a person has got uncontrollable wealth, he doesn't even know where wealth is. If you go and ask him, say, you take, okay, take. He will not even bother because by giving, etc., it is not going to reduce his wealth. So he is not really worried. So the Bhagavan is in such a position of giving that kind of blessing where his resources are unlimited. So you can give any amount of blessing. So Mukta Piyusha Varshai. So Varsha means rain. It's just raining, showering blessings on the person, and which can free the person from become Mukta. So the word Mandita Angaha, you ask Krishna. Mandita means sitting, and the body is Anga, the bodies. So it is visualized as a person sitting with his physical limbs in Dhyanam and is worshipped as the Bhagavan there. So Mandita Angaha. So Mukta Piyusha Varshai Anandinaha. So the one who is supposed to be the bestower of Ananda, or the one who is bestowed with happiness. Anandi na Puniya. So Puniya means pure. Anandi Puniya Dhari. So if you look at the word Puniya Dhari Nalinna Gatha Shankapanir Mukundaha. That's a whole word. But I'll have to break the word into each of the meaning to understand. So first one is called Puni. Puni means pure. Then Dhari means the holder. Then Nalina means the discus or the chakram. The holder of the chakram which will bestow purity, which will bestow Ananda. Because the chakram is supposed to be what? Protector of Dharma. And whenever the chakram is rotating, Dharma is being protected. So the chakram is used only for whenever there is adharma being there, at that time only the chakram is used. Otherwise, the Vishnu is always, is just like this. Chakram will be rotating Dharma. The discus rotating, what does it mean? Mean Dharma is rotating, everything is perfectly ordained. The whole universe is functioning correctly as supposed to be. The galaxies are performing, the stars are orbiting. The chakram represents that. And when the chakram is thrown, that means it actually goes and disturbs or kills somebody, or it removes the adharma and comes back and joins again. Again, Vishnu is there. So that is what it means. So, Puniya Dhari Nalina Gadha. Gadha means what? The mace. Gada. Nalina Gada. Then Shankapanir. So Shankapani means what? The conch, the holder of the conch. Shankapanir. So Chakrapani, Shankapani, Dandapani, Kodandapani, all these things mean the Pani mean the holder of this. So the one who is got conch in his hand is called Pani. So Shankapani Mukundaha. So Mukunda here means the giver of knowledge. Mukunda means giver of knowledge. So you got all the words? Okay. So if you want, I can repeat the words so that you get the meaning of this. So first is called Shiraha. So Shiraha means ocean. Then Shiro Dhanvat means the milky ocean. Pradeshe means the place, or the place where Bhagavan Vishnu resides is called the Milky Ocean. Parkadalil, or where the ocean of milk is there, that is where it resides. So Bhagavan Vishnu is residing in the ocean of milk, which is the ocean. That's what it says here. And he is rested how? Suchimani Vilasit Sakte Mauktikana. So Suchimani, so the one who is adorned with crystal clear pearls, and who is Sakte means bedecked, or the one who is ornamented like this, and who is of the nature of Mauktikanam, who is the giver of Mukti.
Vilasat ji.
Vilasat. Vilasat means, one second, let me see. Adorned. So Vilasat, adorned with the pearls. Suchimani Vilasat Saikate Mauktikana. So bedecked or adorned, both of them are there. So the one who is adorned and also bedecked. See, adorning means just putting something on. But bedecked means the one who is, lots of things are there. So Vishnu, if you see here, he is not happy with only one mala. People will give him lots of mala. You will put one, you will put three, you'll have, silver, gold, everything will be there. So the one who is always shining, because Vishnu represents the universe, the happiness, the manifestation of the universe. And that's why Vishnu is always of the nature of, you see him decorated always. You'll never see Vishnu in very Nirmalya form. So Nirmalya form means what? Where there's nothing, no ornament, nothing there. Shiva, you will see him always in Nirmalya form. He will not have any decoration. Alankaram is not there. That's why Vishnu is called Alankara Priyaha. Vishnu is Alankara Priyaha and Shiva is Abhisheka Priya. So people do Abhishekam for Shiva and people do Alankaram for Vishnu. Because Alankara means what? The one who is wants to be seen in the magnanimity of the world. See, the world is a beautiful thing. Different creatures, different species, flowers, trees. They're all beautiful to look at. People are beautiful. Everything is beautiful. So Vishnu should be represented as the personification of the universe. That's why here, Vilasat, Shuchimani Vilasat Sakte Mauktikana, that particular word means bedecked and adorned with ornaments, with money, which is of the nature of crystal, pure. Okay. Then, Mala Kliptas Asanasta. So he has also got the garland and he is Asanastaha, who is sitting there, adorned with pearls, is sitting. And he's got Spatika Manir, Maukti Manditangaha. So Spatika, again the Spatikam is coming there. See, Suchimani and Spatikamani. Suchimani is pure and Spatikam means crystal. So crystal clear and pure. Spatika Manir, Maukti the one who is supposed to be of the nature of Maukti giver of Mukta, he is Manditangaha. So he is actually being sitting there and with all the sitting there. He is worshipped like this. Then the word Subhe Rabhrair, all the word, etc., that talks about the clouds, the white clouds, the canopy of the clouds, the water-bearing clouds, etc., is being talked about there. Whole word. And what does this cloud do? Mukta Piyusha Varshai. So it showers mukti on the person. So the rains are supposed to be mukti. So the rains are supposed to be mukti for everybody because the rains are not there, we are not mukta. So it's supposed to be a bestower of mukti. And how is it ananda? So the rains or the blessings of Bhagavan is always of the nature of ananda. Then the last line, Puniya Dhara Nalina Gada Shankapanir Mukundaha. So Puniya means pure And Dharaha means the holder of the pure discus, Nalina. And Gada. So the Punya has to be added to Punya Nalina, Punya Gada, Punya Shankapanir. So all of them which are pure. The Shanka is also pure, the conch is pure, the discus is pure, the Gada is pure, and who is also called Mukunda, or the giver of freedom. See, Mukunda, when he says Mumukshu, the one who is supposed to be giving you the knowledge, the freedom is called Mukunda. Govinda, when he say. All these are names. Daha means giver. And Muku means the freedom which is given. So Mukunda, Govinda. So Go also means knowledge. And Govinda means may you attain knowledge. So in Bhajagovindam, if you are attending, you will know that Govinda, it says Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam. So why do you say Govindam? Because Govinda is supposed to be the giver of freedom, or giver of, from samsara you have to be free. So that's why it's called Govinda. Just by chanting Govinda, it's not enough. Some people go to the temple, say Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. You say like this. So everybody is chanting, you also chant Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Other people, for them, Govinda is a name. Correct? But for you, Govinda should resonate, saying that, oh, I am calling you Govinda because I know that you can give me moksha. So I know that you are the moksha pradata. Thereby I call Govinda. So your worship will be different compared to other people's worship. Otherwise, you will be like Atu Mandai, one of those people, sheep. So there are, one sheep follows. One sheep does not know and it just follows, crosses the, without looking at the danger. Because one sheep is going, other sheep also follow. Then all 20 sheep follow and they follow. They just go there. So one must not be blind. One must worship with the meaning. One should worship with the purpose, with the objective in mind, with the lakshya in mind. That is the purpose of this prayer. Is it clear? Okay. So this is called the dhyanam, first dhyanam. Then the second one is Bhupadav Yasya. So Bhupadav Yasya. So Bhuhu means the earth, and Padav Yasya means as the feet of the Lord. So the Bhuhu represents the feet of the Lord. Then Nabhir Vyad. So Nabhir here talks about the navel, Nabhir. Then Vyad talks about so Nabhir Vyad means the navel is being personified as the sky. So Bhupadav talks about the earth. Yasya means as though. So Bhupadav Yasya, Nabhir Vyad Yasya. So Nabhir Vyad means what? Nabi means the navel and Vyad means the space. So the space, the navel of the Bhagavan is personified or worshipped as the space. The feet of the Lord is worshipped as the earth. Correct. So if you go to any Vaishnava temple, I think we have Vaishnavas also here. You will know that whenever you go to worship the temple, they will always start from the feet of the Lord. They will never offer you, if you watch it carefully, they will say, wash the feet of the Lord. Then they will take it, then they'll off right side, then the left side, then the middle, then they take it up, then finally they correct. So because your head should be bowing down always. Your head should never be looking up direct to the Lord. It is submission, an expression of your gratitude, saying that I'm always at the feet of the Lord. It's also the bhakti. So your feet, your eyes, that's why we do namaste also. We do not do namaste like this. We always do namaste bending. Why? Because we want to see the feet or we want to bow our head to the feet of the person in front. It means you see the Bhagavan in him and he also sees the Bhagavan in you. And that is how you see. Namaste, how are you? You say like this, that means there's Angamam there. You say, Namaste, how are you? Difference. Because the Bhavyam comes in, attitude comes in the picture. It's all about attitude. So all this talks about is attitude. So Bhupado Yasya, Nabir Viyad, then Sura Anila. So Sura Anila. So Sura means the sun. Sura Anila. So the fire in the sun. So Sura Anilam means the fire in the sun. Chandra Suryo Chanetre. So the two eyes represent the sun and the moon. Okay. See, Chandra Suryo Chanetre. Means the moon and the sun represent the eye of the Bhagavan. So whenever you see the Bhagavan, you see the eyes represent the sun and the moon. And the sun is how of the nature of fire. Sura Anila. Nabir Bihad. So Nabi represents the space. And the Bhupado represents the feet. The eyes represent the sun and the moon. Okay. So far you got it? Okay. Then Karna Vasham. See, Karna Vasham means, Karnam means the ears. And the ears represent the directions of the Bhagavan. Because the ear can receive information or sound from all directions. See, you do not need to turn your ear to see this way to hear something. If your ears are positioned properly, you will be able to hear sound from all directions. Because the ear represents the directional view of the Bhagavan. So, Karna Vasham. Then, Shiro Dhyau. So, Shiro means the head. Shiro means head. And it is Dhyau. Dhyau means the space or upwards. So the head is pointing upwards. Head doesn't, so his head is, the top of the head represents the space. Right? Then Mukam Api Dahano. So Mukam Api Dahano, Mukam means the face and Dahanaha means, Dahanam means not burning. Dahanam means he is sparkling or shining. His face is shining. So, Mukam Dahano Api means just as his face is shining. Then, Vasteyam Abdihi. So, Vasteyam means the abdomen. The abdomen means the stomach of the Lord. So abdomen, navel, then we have abdomen. Okay. So abdomen represents the water, abdihi. So what have we seen so far here? Padav represents earth, correct? Nabir Viyad represents space, correct? Then Sura Anilaha represents sun. Then Chandra Surya represents all the galaxies, the stars, etc. And Karna Vasha represents the space, the directions. And Shur represents the space which is there, the space there. Then Abdihi, water. So Panchabhutas are worshipped. All the 5 elements, the Bhagavan is made of 5 elements. We are made of 5 elements. We also got Nabi. We also got here 2 eyes, Chandra Suryuch Netre, Karnabhyam, Karnavasham, correct? Mukam Dahano Api. Depends upon what you face. You say, no, my face is not radiant. Because if you think your face is not radiant because you don't feel like that. There is nothing called, radiance is not in the physical appearance. The radiance comes from inside of the person. Agathin Alaga Mugatil Terium. What does it mean? That when your heart is clean, when your mind is clean, when your everything is clean, the radiance is illumined automatically with the person. You do not need to go and see the mirror itself, how beautiful look at. Because external beauty is not required. Internal beauty is required. Very important. That's what it talks about. So the 5 elements are being worshipped here. Okay. Then, is it clear? This particular one? Okay. What is the question, Krishnaji?
Shankar, in the Dahanate got the digestion only.
Dahana Shakti is burning. Dahati means burning.
Burning.
Burning. That means burning means here, the burning is supposed to be when something burns, it actually shines. Fire is supposed to be burning. What does fire produce? Fire produces light. When there is fire, there will be light. You can see things. So the light represents the nature of the face here. So the face is of the nature of illumining face. And why it is illumining? Because the Chandra Surya is actually residing in the face itself. The eyes actually are not separate from the space, from the face, correct? So when the sun and the moon shines, the face is supposed to be radiant. That's why it says here that the eyes represent the sun and the moon. And there is sun and the moon, it actually illumines the darkness, also the daytime also. Right? The moon doesn't have an independent light of its own. There's nothing called moonlight. So when people say, oh, there is moonlight. No, there is no moonlight and there's no starlight. There's only light. The light is only the sun. The sun is the one which illumines all the time. Swayam Prakashaha, Nityam Prakashaha. That means the light is always there, but due to the sun is covered because the earth is moving around. Right? So because sun is actually glowing somewhere else, the sun is not seen there. But the reflection of the sun is what is illumined by the moon. So the moon reflects the sunlight and thereby you get moonlight. But there's no moonlight. So very important. So especially when you're studying Shastram, you'll say moonlight, starlight, twilight, sunlight, all these things are there. There's only light.
That case, 2 eyes were there. One eyes was the sun, one side moon. What is guy blind alien?
Huh?
One eyes was the sun, one eye was the moon. A moon was the light produced panel. Upon the other one the free.
No, both of them are together.
How do you correlate?
Here what it means is here actually you're visualizing the Bhagavan as 2 eyes, sun and the moon. But in the Shastram, we do not say as sun and moon because only sun we say. Even though moon is actually a manifestation of sun in different form. But the stars also is a manifestation of same sun, but giving light in a different form. Like this one light, one fire. One fire can illumine multiple things. One sun can illumine 1,000 pots. If you got 1,000 pots of water sitting there, one sun appears as 1,000 sun. So it is said that there are 1,000 pots and there are 1,000 suns. Can we say that? No. Because one sun represents 1,000 pots, 1,000 sun. It means the reflection of the sun is represent 1,000 pots. So the reflection is many, but sun is only one. So when the pots are removed, there is no thing called reflection at all. There's only sun. That's what it says here. See, that's why in the concept of this, all these are given. Sun, moon. Oh, I have to pray the sun and the moon of Bhagavan. The star, the space. So you just visualize. Dhyana means you have to visualize. That is how the Bhagavan is. So you are now expanding your vision from just chanting now to understanding, oh, the Bhagavan is of this nature. So now, Ekarupa Dhyanam to Anekarupa Dhyanam. So Ekarupa means you see only one form. Krishna is there as an idol. So you do not know what Krishna is. You do not know what Vishnu is. But now when you see the Vishnu, oh, this Vishnu which I am seeing as one now is of the nature of sun, moon, the stars, etc., the space, etc. Then you expand your vision from being single-minded vision to multi-vision now. That is the second step. Then from the second step, you go to the third step called Arupa Dhyana. That is where there is no form. That means this whole world also dismissed. So there is no world outside of me. Means when I wake up, only the world exists. If I don't wake up, the world doesn't exist. So the world depends on me for existence, not the world is dependent. So you understand what I'm talking about? So the world is depending on me for existence. I don't depend upon the world. Okay. The world depends upon me because if I open my eyes, only the world is seen. If I don't open my eyes, the world is not manifest. So who is the knower? You are the knower. That's a concept. That's the ultimate step. So padipadiya, step by step will come. So Karnavasham Shiro Dhyau Mukam Api Dahano Yasya Vaste Mabdihi. Then Antastam Yasya. So Antastam Yasya. Next one. So Antastam means the one who is standing between Bhuloka and Devaloka. The one who is standing between Bhuloka and Devaloka as the protector and sustainer. Antastam. Yasya. Vishwam. So Vishwam means the world, the whole universe. He is the one who is standing as a protector between the earth and the Tripada Syamritam Divi. Atyatishta Dashangulam. The Purusha Sukta we saw. Same thing is talked about here. So when you study this, you should know that also. Right? So Antastam Yasya Sura Nara. So Sura means Devatas. Sura means Devatas. Asura means who? They are Rakshasas. So who are not Devatas are called Asura. So Sura Nara. Nara means the human beings. So Antastam Yasya Vishwam. So the entire world is pervaded by this Vishnu, who is standing tall between the earth and the Devaloka, or whatever the Leka is there, whichever we can go. Then in between that there are Sura. So Devatas are also included. Nara means the human beings are included. Then Khaga means birds. Khaga means birds. Then Go Bhogi means the animals. So Go Bhogi. So Go represents here, the cows. Or Go Bhogi here means the animals which are there, cows, etc. You can say all sorts of animals you can say. Cow Bhogi. Gandharva Daityehi. So Gandharva and Daityas. I think the Daitya I told you before previous class. Diti and Aditi and Daityas I told you, right? So Daityas. Daityas are the Asuras. So, and Gandharva. So Gandharvas are celestial people who are living in Gandharva Lokam. Correct. So Gandharva Vivaham means the marriage which is happening without any consent of the parents. So called Gandharva Vivaha. So you just go and go to the temple, or don't even go to the temple. You just exchange garlands, and it's called Gandharva Vivaham. So no parental nothing is required. You just decide. So Gandharva Vivaham. So Vivaham itself is many. So it's a big topic. Vivaha Samskara. When I get time, I'll teach you there also sometime. So Antastam Yasya Vishwam Sura Nara Khaga Gobir Gandharva Daityehi. Right. Then see Chitram Ramyate. See Chitram means this scene. Chitram means this particular visualization. Ramyate means I'm very enjoying this. See, Ramate means enjoying or enjoyer. So Ramate. Rama means what? The one who is bestower of Ananda or the enjoyer. Enjoyment is Rama. Right. So Chitram Ramyate Tam. Tribhuvana Vapusham. So Tribhuvanam. So three Bhuvanas. So Bhuvaha Suvaha. Tribhuvanam. Tribhuvanam. Vapusham means He talks about the body. Vapuhu means body. So the Bhagavan or Vishnu is present in all the three lokas as Tribhuvana. Tribhuvana. Vishnu Isham Namami. Vishnu Isham is Vishnu Isham Namami. So Vishnu is the one who is pervaded. Vishnu is of the nature of Ishaha. Isham means what? The Bhagavan, Ishvara. So the Vishnu is here saying Isham Namami, to that Bhagavan my prostrations. So Chitram Ramyate Tam Tribhuvana Vapusham Vishnu Isham Namami. So Bhupado Yasya Nabir Vyat Sura Anila Chandra Suryo Cha Netre Karnavasham Shirodhyau Mukam Api Dahano Yasya Vasteyam Abdihi. Then Antastam Yasya Vishwam Sura Nara Khaga Gobhogi Gandharva Taityehi. Chitram Ram Ramyate Tam Tribhuvana Vapusham Vishnu Misham Namami. So I am praying to you, Vishnu Isham means the Supreme Bhagavan Vishnu. I am my namaskaras, namami, my namaskaras. Then, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the Om itself, I told you, the symbol Pratika, symbol, sound symbol of the Lord. And the Bhagavate Vasudevaya has got 12 meanings or 12 letters are there. See, Om, I'll give you next class meaning, okay? Write down first. Om, first. Na, second. Ma. Bha. Ga. Va. Te. Va. Su. De. Va. Ya. You got it? 12. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It means Om Na Ma Bha Ga Va Te Va Su De Va Ya. Got all the 12? I'll explain to you what the 12 means next class. It will take me one whole class to tell what it is. Or maybe half a class at least. Very easy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Finished. Chapter over. But the 12 things represent, each of them represent a particular phenomenon. So you'll have to, that's why Vishnu Sahasranama, which I'm teaching now, it will help you to focus. It will help you to now, sometimes you will become very bad because I'm not able to chant in 45 minutes. Very bad. It doesn't matter. Whatever you chant, 10 minutes you chant, that 10 minutes should be with the Bhagavan. That 10 minutes of whatever you do, even if you do one verse or two verses in a day. See, the Bhagavan doesn't tell you that you should do 45 minutes for everyday chanting. It doesn't tell that. It doesn't even tell you anything. You can chant, 2 verses in a day, but 3 verses in a day also you can chant. But understanding the meaning of chanting, being with the text and going through the notes and then remembering the contemplate is very important. It will give you more, because you're not in a race. You're not going anywhere to chant anything fast. Who are you trying to please? Are you trying to please your neighbors that you chant very fast? What are you going to get out of it? You will get some feeling that I'm a great chanter. That's all you're going to get. But are you getting any meaning out of it? No. Prasadam is waiting there, so you are going there to get it quickly. Because most people who go there to chant, they go there because they first go and see first not out true. Not another pathruva, another someone, oh, Chakra Pongal, all the things are there. They go and first have a look. Oh, so let's try to get it quickly then. So all of them are the same attitude. They all go there, quickly get it out, eat, take away box, and go home. But that is not what is intended here. The intention is actually for you to be with the Bhagavan. The intention is for you to be with the text, so that you contemplate, you visualize, and then that is important. You should enjoy chanting. You must enjoy the prayer. If the prayer becomes mechanical, then it is like, it's of no use. So the prayer has to be enjoyment, it should be beneficial to you. Is it clear? So apart from Krishnaji, any questions? Krishnaji is the one who asks questions all the time. Okay.
Gandharva is a secret.
No. Gandharva is actually one of the type of celestial being. So Gandharvas are the people who are, they are the people roaming around like Devatas in Gandharva Loka. So Gandharva Loka is different. So Gandharvas are supposed to be the one who, there's a Gandharva Vivaham also is there, marriage. Correct. Any other questions, Sheshadriji?
Kshiram means milk, actually. Kshirodhan.
Kshiram means
milk.
Shirodhanvat Pradesh.
Kshiram
means milk and the ocean of milk. That's why I told you. Ocean.
Parkadal.
Parkadal.
So Kshiram means milk in Sanskrit.
So Kshira means milk, and here Dhanvat Pradesh means the one who is residing in the ocean of milk is the Bhagavan Vishnu. So Parkadal is Srinivasan. Srini Lirukum Vasan. So Srini means sugar. So the ant lives in the sugar. He likes sugar. So you leave a sugar out there, ant will already come there. You don't have to do anything great about it. You just leave sugar out there, they will come somewhere or the other. They got that capacity to know. That's what it is. Any other question, Radhaji? Anything else?
Yeah, all fine, Ji. Thank you, sir.
Nitin, you got any questions, Nitin?
No, sir.
You have followed everything. Very good. Radhika ji, any questions from you? Okay. Next week, we will look at the meaning of the mantra, the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then we go into the actual mantra itself. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaste, Shubhratri. So we got the Gita class in the evening. So whoever wants to attend, we are most welcome to attend.
Shankarji, one of my friends from India, they want to attend this Gita class. Okay, shall I give her the ID and password?
Gita class, anybody can attend. Actually, Gita is like, easy to attend. Because it's the most easiest thing anybody can understand. So Gita class, Upanishad class, sometimes, I may have to ask. Otherwise, Gita is okay.
Okay. And this Vishnu Sahasranam also they want to join.
Yeah, so the more people come, see, it's actually a journey, right? Okay. So it's a yajna which you are doing. Vishnu Sahasranam is a yajna. And in the yajna, the more people participate, the more people benefit. It is good for all of us. So there's no problem. You can invite them.
Okay, Shankarji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.